was published. So since the election, so on the report it says Councillor Garner was listed as the ward councillor on the county level. That's, I think, no longer the case, although there's still the ward member for the adjacent ward. And then the second update, there was the report kind of goes into quite a bit of detail on biodiversity net gain triggers within the original S106 agreement. Just sort of to direct the debate, that's kind of its background context for the original planning application. So it's the main issues really here is purely the dwelling that's proposed to replace the two semi-detached plots that were previously granted. So that the report here will sort of reflect on that basis. So there's just go through a series of slides here. So this one, so we'll go through some plans, and then I've just got a few photos of the site to provide some context. So this is the existing approved layout. So the site's 73 to 74 dwellings have planning permission, and the site is approximately 50% built out. So if you can just see the two semi plots there, just where the mouse is hovering. So the two orange dots, those are the two plots as existing. They are semi-detached bungalows, to my understanding, which would be consistent with the approved layout of the site. So this just shows this is the build out as shown on the satellite. The actual progress of the build out has is substantially sort of ahead of this now. So you can see the access road from Sandhurst Avenue in the south of Mansfield, and then really dwellings are mostly along this northern access road are now constructed. So it's approximately 50% complete. So this just shows the zoomed in plot. So you've got the existing detached dwelling here, or sorry, the proposed attached dwelling with so it'd be 2 stories. I'll show the elevations on the next slide. So it would effectively occupy the footprint of the existing approved semi-detached bungalows. Existing dwellings are to the rear, to the western side here. Sandhurst Avenue, the main access would be to the southwest and shared private drive. So this is the layout proposed. So the main change really is it's effectively should be seen as a replacement dwelling for the 2 approved plots. So as opposed to having a single story, 2 single story semi-detached bungalows, you would have 1 detached dormer bungalow that would have sort of 2 stories, roof lights to the front, projection gable, standard materials, and then the dormer windows to the rear. So just this elevation just shows the double garage. So the next few slides are just a number of photos just to provide some further context. So, and then I'll just give a brief commentary as I go through. So this is just from Sandhurst Avenue looking east. It's not showing any, it's showing sort of number 57, 59. So it's kind of just showing the existing relationship between sort of the visuals as to what you would expect to see from the main road, which is effectively what you can see, not a huge amount. These next few slides are within the site. So this is showing looking into the site as to where the plot would be. So kind of looking from the access road or from the main spine road within the site. So really this is kind of looking east to west, sort of various photos to the same effect, really sort of illustrating the sort of visual relationship and the likely outlook. So this is the entrance to the shared private drive. So again, sort of showing a zoomed out picture. So this one's perhaps the clearest. So you've got the existing digger on site, and this retaining wall sort of shows your level differences. So the existing dwellings would be beyond the retaining wall, approximately 40 meters to the rear of between the end-to-end separation distances of the proposed dormer bungalow and the existing dwellings off Sandhurst Avenue. This is just sort of showing the illustrative design of the built out plots. So I think there's not a huge amount of in terms of material considerations. I think there's the reason for the referral. So there were 4 objections received, 3 of which were from a planning consultant on behalf of 3 residents that live on Sandhurst Avenue, and then 1 was from Councillor Garner. So the main issues really, it was the impact on the character and appearance of the area and the impact on the living conditions of the existing occupiers. I think as far as character and appearance is concerned, I think main consideration really, so it's acknowledged that really the sort of the built form of the estate would be bungalows. I think that's not really in contention. I think I think the officer assessment of the report wasn't to concur that yeah, there is a visual change, but it wouldn't it would be effectively limited to sort of the immediate private drive looking into the site, with maybe occasional glimpses elsewhere, but nothing that would fundamentally alter the character of the development or the wider area. So that wasn't kind of, we didn't share that view. As far as amenity is concerned, so again, I don't think there's no denying that obviously there will be an introduction of a dormer window on the roof pitch of the rear elevation of the facade. I think the main consideration here is that the separation distance between that facade and the existing dwellings would be about 43 meters. So end to end perimeter blocks where you'd have a house, and then the rear gardens the typical guidance is about 21 meters. In this case, we're looking at about 43 between the facades with boundary trees and other boundary treatments in between. So the relationship wasn't sort of deemed unacceptable as far as officers were concerned. So that's all I've got to say on that. Thanks.
Thank you for the report, Dan. We've got a speaker on this item, so I'd like to invite Julie Pillmore to the podium. When you're ready, if you turn the mic on, just press that button, and you've got 4 minutes to speak. Yeah.
I'm Julie Pillmore, and I'm here representing myself and my neighbours regarding this matter. When the original application was submitted, it was for a development of 58 bungalows, and we all actively supported it, assuming the plan was to actually build only bungalows. We all supported it in good faith, as did everybody who have purchased their new homes on the development of what they were led to believe would be only bungalows, again, all in good faith. Mrs. Deakin, my neighbour at 61 Sandhurst Avenue, also agreed to allow the developer to remove her very large established conifer from the top of her garden, with absolutely no mention of their plans to build a 2-storey house which would totally overlook her home. Again, she acted in good faith. In the planning officer's report, it points out the separation distance has been reduced to 11 metres, the height increased by 1.7 metres, and a large double garage is also proposed. Although, as stated, some properties on the development have a similar roof height, none border any existing bungalows surrounding the development, only houses. Obviously, an increase in height, footprint and proximity will cause an increase in overshadowing and reduce the amounts of light and sunlight to our homes and gardens at the certain times of the day and the year. All things which should have been thoroughly considered, but still no study has been commissioned. The fact the application is for a 2-storey house and it is only 11 metres from our garden and is close to the new bungalows surrounding it means it will cause a massive problem to everyone surrounding it, with privacy issues overlooking us all. 1.7 metres difference in height when a property has upstairs dormer windows, roof lights and double height glass entrance with a staircase means it will overlook and be intrusive to many properties, both on Sandhurst Avenue and on the Grange. The trajectory from the dormer windows and roof lights will allow overlooking on both sides. I am aware it will be 40 metres plus away from our homes, but only 11 metres from our gardens, which we spend many hours in, and will overlook us and take away our privacy, which we've had for the last 38 years of living here. Nobody wants to be watched. While I appreciate Dukery's homes are a business, and a larger 2-storey house will return a larger profit, it will have a massive impact on the privacy and enjoyment of our homes and gardens. Single-storey bungalows would not impact on privacy at all. The proposed two-storey house would totally be out of character, as it is entirely surrounded by bungalows, which this is definitely not. It will be overbearing to all nearby properties.
30 seconds.
And I again reiterate, it will ruin our privacy, be extremely intrusive, and the building is in a totally different style to everything else. People purchase bungalows on a development of only bungalows to ensure their privacy. Please consider my points, as it would impact me hugely and my well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Do members have any questions of the speaker? Yeah, Councillor Abbs.
So what you're saying is on Sandhurst Avenue, all of that lot's all bungalows.
The 4 properties, so from number 67, 65, 63, 61 and 59 are bungalows,
And the
yes.
And the rest aren't.
The rest of the houses, but stand on lower ground. So none of them actually overlook from Sandhurst Avenue.
I can appreciate what you're saying about the overlooking, with only 2-storey building house. You get that anyway. I mean, I've got that at home.
But what I'm trying to say is we're not overlooked by any 2-storey dwellings. And we, you know, we supported this application in good faith, as I say, because it was for a development of 58 bungalows, which the billboard sign still states on the entrance to the development.
Okay, miss, thank you.
Members have any further questions? Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Thank you for coming and thank you for your presentation. It was very good. Thank you. It was. Give us everything that
I'm passionate about it.
we can tell. I just got a few questions. Did anybody sell any land off at the back of their garden, bottom of their gardens, to the developers?
As far as I'm aware, no. I know they did try and purchase land to the rear of number 59. The garden is approximately 15 metres longer than the gardens to number 61, 63, 65 and 67. But as Mr. Todd, who actually owns the property, lives in Switzerland, I've no clue whether they managed to get hold of them or not. He did tell us that he had managed to purchase it, but nothing's happened and I haven't spoken to Mr. Todd.
Just looking at the plans, I was trying to work out if 61 and 63 had sold off lands, because
No, that's how the plots were originally, just for the buildings that were actually there when the brickworks were there. So yeah, that's why.
okay. But then I think you said something about the lady at 63.
I live at 63.
Sorry, 61. Took some trees down.
Yeah, the old lady, Kath, she's in her 80s. She's got a disabled son. I know which shouldn't impact any decisions. But yeah, she was approached because she had a huge conifer in a garden at the top, and they approached her to actually cut it down because it was overhanging the building site considerably by probably about 20 foot, and my garden as well, because it was in the corner. And yeah, you know, they asked her if they could cut it down, and they did, and they've actually removed the stump as well, so it's not going to grow back. And I do feel it's a little bit underhanded, not mentioning the fact that they were actually planning this all along to have because it is a house.
We've talked about loss of light. So I'm presuming that picture is north-south.
We have a east-facing garden.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that the sun's going to come up about there and go all the way around there. So the only time that it's actually going to stop any sunlight is about 5 o'clock in the morning in May, June.
In the morning at the moment, I can see the sun coming up at about 7 o'clock in the morning. Yes, now.
Any other members wishing to question the speaker? No one's indicated. Thank you very much. Thank you, Julie. Members wish to question the officer's report? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. Are you able to clarify some of the statements in regards to the site being entirely bungalows? This particular property being a dormer bungalow. Is there other dormer bungalows on the site? Is this the only one? Is it true that they all are bungalows? Please.
Thank you, councillor. Yeah, that my sort of vibe of the site when I had to drive around it is, yeah, the predominant character is bungalows, but they've all kind of they're not sort of you can see from the actual. So I think there was as far as Phil's just mentioned to me that saying that we're also flat on the site in addition to bungalows. So whilst the overriding character is predominantly bungalows, it's not homogenous. And I think the point I tried to make in my presentation is that there's an acknowledgement that, yeah, the dormer bungalow would be odds with a significant majority of the site, but we're not just assessing whether there's no requirement in planning policy to create like create exact clones of the site. It's to have regard for the character and appearance of the area, but then also contextualizing that in terms of the actual harm that would create. And if I just go back to sort of the actual site plan, the actual views of the bungalow, because I think the report covers it's approximately maybe a metre and a bit higher, that would go, if it was two detached bungalows on a wider area, you might have more of a concern, but we're taking two semis and replacing it with a single plot. So there's a slight increase in height, sorry, but a reduction in the number. There's a net loss of a plot, and the actual visual harm will be very limited. I hope that sort of covers everything. Thanks.
Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
What were the circumstances of the original planning when the people of current residents have said, well, actually, yes, we're not going to complain. It's tidying the area up, but they are all going to be bungalows. What do you know the circumstances of that happening?
Thank you, councillor. I think obviously the original planning history predates my time. I think that the general consideration I would have is that when you're having character and appearance is one consideration of many, as is housing mix to a degree. I think I wouldn't want to sort of get into the sort of the massive detail on the original application, because planning is primarily looking at land use, of which character and appearance is one. And I think the presumption is that whilst the whole site is predominantly bungalows, I don't think there's any conditions that broadly stipulate that it only has to be single story buildings, and there is national permitted development rights which do, under certain circumstances, allow for bungalows to have additional stories put on them, subject to national sort of streamlined prior approval processes. So I think whilst there's a general an overarching character of it being bungalows, I don't think this, even if it was the case that the intention is it's mostly bungalows, I don't. The officer view isn't that the net loss of a single plot and the introduction of a two-story dwelling on a site which is mostly built out would substantially harm or change any sort of overriding principles or considerations that have been previously assessed.
Thank you. That was a long answer to a pretty simple question. If the people at 63 put dormers, so I'm looking at the sort of gable end of the White House 63, where the new house, if it's approved, will be at the end of the back garden. And in effect, it's a dormer bungalow without dormers. If they decided they were going to rate, because it's got a flat roof, it's a bit odd, but if they took the flat roof off and put it up and then put a dormer on, what planning permission would they need for that?
Oh, thank you, councillor. So there's a number of mechanisms they could use. So depending on the height of some bungalows can be taller than others. So in some cases for sort of bigger bungalows, you could put potentially like a mezzanine in or do like a loft conversion, and then that would afford permitted development rights in some regard to certain scales. So it's possible, although obviously I don't know the sort of the internal. I'm not a building inspector, so I don't know the mechanisms. But I think you could do it under permitted development rights in theory. You could also come in for householder planning permission to raise the height of a of the ridge of a house. You can also do it under prior approval. So that there's a number of different ways, some of which would require planning permission, some wouldn't. It's possible that a house could do it without any planning permission whatsoever. I think the general sort of consideration is one that I outlined in my sort of presentation, which is the overall separation distance. So not including the 11 meters is the proposed rear garden of the new house. The overall separation distance is broadly double what we would broadly sort of expect from end-to-end development. Obviously, this isn't these houses are existing, but I think that's just a broad baseline.
Okay, just one more check. So what I'm thinking is, and I'll probably talk about this in a bit anyway, is that if they did that, if I bought that house and I thought, right, it's not big enough for roof, so I'm going to raise the gable end, put a big massive dormer on the back, I would almost guarantee that the people that move into the new house, if it's approved and built, would say that I'm invading their privacy through my new lovely windows and massive dormer, so I can look straight into their house because they've got nice big windows.
Thank you, councillor. I think it's natural for people to obviously value their own privacy. I think what I would say is if that did happen, officers would have to assess that proposal on its own merits. And I think that the general principle, again, I don't want to take away from anybody's experiences and concerns. It's obviously, I think we would assess that application at its own time, and I think the conclusions would likely be. I don't want to predetermine anything because it could well happen, but the conclusions would likely be similar to what we've outlined for the proposed. Thank you.
Why is this not a section 73 amendment?
I'd have to go back so I'd have to check the description of development, but often it depends how you word an approval. So for example, you can like often say like planning permission for up to a number of dwellings, which would give you greater flexibility over numbers. So yeah, they in another site they could well have done that. Often the key thing with section 73 is you can't harm the description. So often they'd come in for a new full application. So I've seen that on so you've seen it with numbers of care home bed. So for example, there's an application I think in the moment where it's internal alterations to form an extra bedroom. They've not done that as a section 73 because it would conflict with the description of development, even if the changes are minor. So they had to come in for a full. That's my presumption anyway. Thanks.
Any further questions? Councillor Answer.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you just tell me then, please? The lady said, Julie said, about the loss of light and overlooking, and the fact that the initial application was for bungalows. This is a dormer bungalow, which was not obviously mentioned within the planning application, just bungalows. Don't you think that we're being a bit lackadaisical in allowing this sort of situation to develop regarding building a large bungalow overlooking houses that's been there for a long time, and not considering the loss of light that they're going to have? Don't you think that we're being a bit soft at the council by allowing this?
Thank you, councillor. So I understand the sentiment, and I think if there was a substantial change in like a substantial number of units, that might be a consideration we would want to make. I think is that the general thing is that it's not unusual for sites to change this. And it's often in many cases applications can go through various iterations and usually much more substantial than what's being proposed here. So it's not uncommon for this to happen in any means, and it's often more substantial than this. I think in terms of loss of light, so that's a requirement as part of this application to look at we have to look at the two plots that are being lost, the type of those houses, the appearance of those houses, and then the new unit which is going to be put in place of that. I think the general consideration I would say is that a two-story house can be anywhere from 6 to 8 meters in height. The separation distance from the rear elevation of the existing houses to the rear elevation of this house would be 43 meters, so 5 to 6 times greater than the height of the house. So in overshadowing, it would be almost physically impossible to have any significant shadows. Overlooking, I'm not saying there would be no harm, but I think that the general thing I would say is that the level of separation distance, it would be very unusual to expect any new build applications to come anywhere near this. So general guideline is 21. We're double that, and then obviously that's not taking into account existing boundary treatments of fences and trees that are there, so which would further mitigate the harm. So the overall impact was considered to be non-material.
Any further questions? No one. Thank you. Could I have a proposer and seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Hammersley. We're in debate mode. Does anyone want to comment? No. Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. I think my concern is that the good people of Sandhurst Avenue kind of went along with the original planning and are now just being ignored because what they thought they were getting, bungalows with no upstairs rear view over their gardens and their privacy, and they're going to lose that. And if the boot was on the other foot, whoever buys this house would probably be saying, I don't want them looking over my house. Well, my answer to that, to be fair, would be, well, you bought it, tough. But it seems to me that they've been hoodwinked a little bit. And the idea of it going from 2 bungalows to 1 bungalow makes zero difference whatsoever. It's still more or less the same size building, except that it's higher. But the privacy side of this is much bigger, in that the elderly lady at 63 chopped the conifers down. To be fair, if they were over 8 meters, they'd have to chop them down in any case, probably. But now they're just expected to put up with the loss of privacy that most of them will have had for years and years and years, donkey's years. So I just have concerns, and I know that the distance is 43 meters, probably acceptable to be 25-ish, so it's over that. But I just think if the boot was on the other foot, if we lived in those houses on Sandhurst Avenue, we'd be fed up, because they are simple as this, losing their property, because people can see it, can look out of their rear windows, but not just normal size and shape windows, big dormer windows. And I just think from a privacy perspective, it's unnecessary. Why don't they just build 2 bungalows and everybody's happy? And the long and short of it all will be there's more profit in 1 big house with dormers on than there is in 2 bungalows. Just my comments.
Anyone else wishing to make a comment? No. I'll move to the vote by show of hands. All those in favour of the application recommendation? Those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. In that case, the application for the new single dwellings on plots 66, 67 of the residential development approved under reference 2020-05-354 has been granted permission with conditions. Seven in favour, 3 against. No abstentions. Thank you. Move on the agenda to item 5. Appendices for Human Rights Act and use classes. Could I ensure that we've noted those by show of hands? All in favour? Unanimous? Thank you. Finally, item 6, the planning appeals decisions. See on the last page. The retrospective application for first floor rear extension with balcony, new porch to the front, new roof with dormer to the side and render finish. Submission of plan application 2024-018-118 HHA. Retrospective application for the first floor rear extension with a balcony, new porch to the front, new roof with a dormer and side and render. And amendments to windows at 103 Sherwood Street, Warsaw. The inspector upheld the decision. That was refused by the committee. I have a show of hands that's been noted. Any abstentions? Any against? No, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That concludes business for tonight. So thank you very much for your attendance and have a safe journey home. Thank you.